Welcome, everybody, to the Wake Up Call channel. I've been covering this for a couple of years, it feels like, covering everything going on with the bird flu. And I have to show you what they just aired on CBS television, of course, CBS, the all-seeing eye, news, wig, about the bird flu, but specifically how they need to make a magic potion for the bird flu. Then they tell you some of the stuff I've been talking about where they're like, well, it's not really, should we be scared yet about adults getting it? And they actually go into detail about killing off the egg supply and telling us how magic potions are made by using eggs, which is interesting, right? So they tell us that they make magic potions for everybody, but they need eggs to do it. But now eggs conveniently are contaminated and we need to kill chickens off. So how are we going to make a magic potion? Well, this is how problem, reaction, solution works, but it's not really problem, reaction, solution. The ultimate goal is to gene edit. So they talk about in this clip, I find it completely, just amazing how out in the open it is, how we need to move forward with the magic potion, but it needs to specifically be an mRNA magic potion. Listen to this from CBS All-Seeing Eye Good Morning News.
In Iowa, the nation's top egg producer says more than 4 million chickens will be slaughtered after bird flu was detected at a large egg farm. It is the largest number of chickens affected by the virus so far this year. Some 23 million birds have been killed in Iowa since 2022. And that news comes as scientists also have eggs top of mind because they are still the main ingredient in making vaccines that could potentially protect people against the outbreak of a new bird flu strain. So joining me now is Dr. Celine Gounder. She is the editor-at-large for public health at KFF and a CBS News medical contributor. Okay, I have heard this before. Every once in a while you hear about people that can't have a vaccine because they're allergic to eggs. I don't think that's a thing anymore.
That's not true.
But how are eggs used in the creation of vaccines?
Well, so we grow up the virus in the eggs, and then you kill the virus, and then that's one of the constituents that's really the main ingredient in your vaccines.
Okay, and so so just to go back, if you have an allergy to eggs, it's not a factor because...
As it turns out, it's not a factor because you're really just growing the virus in the eggs. It's not that the eggs are part of the vaccine. It's just the substrate for the food, really, for the virus to be growing.
So I can see why scientists would be concerned, though. Right now, we're not dealing with an outbreak of the bird flu in the human population, but viruses evolve, and we don't want to be caught flat-footed again, and we're killing all of these birds.
Well, remember, bird flu is deadly to birds. Birds also lay eggs, which are one of your main tools, really, to produce the virus that you put in the vaccine.
Yeah.
And so if you're having to kill birds that are laying the eggs, you're really in a difficult situation. With these very birds that are laying the eggs that we're using for the vaccines, those are a very precious commodity. But if they are endangered by the very virus we're hoping to combat, you're kind of in this very difficult position.
Yeah, and so there must be scientists working on alternatives, though. Are there alternatives out there?
There are alternatives. So remember mRNA vaccines from COVID. So both Moderna and Pfizer are looking at developing flu vaccines, even combination flu and COVID vaccines. There are other types of cells that are not eggs. So you have mammalian cells, you have insect cells, in fact, that we can grow virus in. But these are just not as far advanced, as far developed as the egg-based manufacturing.
Right. And just to remind viewers, because we have talked an awful lot about the bird flu, why are scientists talking about this now if we're not seeing a widespread outbreak in human population?
Right. Well, what we worry about is as we're seeing more and more mammals infected, so not just cows, but really any number of, you have cats, you have dolphins, you have really a whole range of mammals, and a couple human cases. Yeah, even like sea lions. And so with all of those introductions into mammalian species, into humans, we've had some human cases, there's always the risk that the virus is going to mutate and adapt. It always mutates. And so does it adapt better for humans, and can it eventually transmit from human to human? And that's where you can have a pandemic.
Right, and we don't want one of those.
We don't want one of those.
We've already been through that. Dr. Celine Gounder, thank you so much.
I mean, it's really, it's incredible. I'm surprised they even needed to put something like this out to convince people that we need an mRNA shot. But there's so much stuff out there about gene editing that some people have become a bit suspicious. In fact, there was an illusion during the outbreak that if you took a specific one of the potions, remember they said, well, you could pick this potion or that potion. There was 3 in America, right? One was Johnson & Johnson. And they said, well, those 2 have this new tech called mRNA, and the other one doesn't, right? So a lot of people are like, all right, I'm going to take the safer one. Meanwhile, they all had it in it. Let's be real. They were all the same exact thing, but the illusion of choice is very important in being able to mind control the sheeple. So they gave them the illusion of choice so they didn't feel like it was forced on them, even though it was forced. Okay, a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people, a lot of things went on. A lot of people felt so much peer pressure from the people around them who were feeding off the propaganda that they went and poisoned themselves. The whole thing was incredible. We all know people who got duped into it. I know people specifically who were not only duped into it, who are no longer on the earth and passed away very shortly after it. But of course, I'm not supposed to connect the dots, right? And I try, like I've told people before, I try to warn people. People are like, oh man, I wish I could warn people like you warn people. I've been honest since ever. I'm honest every day on here, but I'm honest about my personal life, okay? Which I don't disclose very often. But people closest to me don't listen to me. It's very hard to reach the closest people to you. That's a problem. That's part of how this reality we live in works. It's very hard to get the truth across to people that know us, right? And there's just something there. There's a wall that's up. They think oh, I went to school with you. What do you know more than me or your mom or your sisters or your cousins, whoever. So I've tried when the potion came out, like everybody else, to keep my loved ones away from it. And there was ones that did, and they're no longer here. So it's a never-ending battle. So while they're talking about how we have to kill off our eggs, right? We can't make any of the potions with eggs, so they could just continue to push let's just call it gene editing down your throats. There's some other articles out there, and I'm sure some of you have seen this, but it's very important to know. The bird flu can also infect cats, right? It also infect cats and dogs, right? So just to reiterate, a flu that is named after the animal that can only get it, the bird, can now mutate, right? Like you heard in that clip. That's one of the key things they've been using over the years, the word mutate, right? All of a sudden, all of these things are just mutating and turning into different ones. That's just another way to continually get you to go, become magnetic. Let's put it that way. And these people just fall for it. They're like, you say to them, you're like, well, wait, why all of a sudden is it mutating? Like, that's science. You don't understand. Then they give you some bullcrap answer about how everything now mutates, right? So what? The flu can now become AIDS too? Is that what you're going to tell? Oh, sure. Why not? Why not, right? A booger, you have a snot on your nose. Well, that could suddenly, turn into leukemia. What? It could turn into an STD. What? What are you whatever. It mutates. Don't you get it? Don't you get it, man? It mutates. Okay, so you're supposed to just believe that. So, again, the flu for the birds has mutated into something that cats can get as well, which, again, this is another way to get people to eventually get this in their pets, get this in themselves. I'm sure their pets will shed it onto them if they don't get it in their own body. And I wanted to show you this too, because look underneath this. Bird flu can infect cats. What does that mean for people? Raw milk, raw meat, and dead birds may be sources of infection. Oh, that's interesting, right? We look at that, okay? For those of you that don't know, they've been pushing very hard against raw milk, okay? So I want to cover that as well in this video. Raw milk, this is New York Times. Raw milk's risks don't stop right-wing commentators from defiantly pushing it. So a lot of people out there don't know this. I didn't know this, and somebody on the website put it up on the website a couple of months ago when Lord Rothschild thankfully passed, but we all know he didn't really pass. He just changed vessels. But let me just read this to you about raw milk, okay? So Nathaniel Rothschild sat in the English House of Lords for a lifetime position, but he only spoke twice. Twice. This is Nathaniel Rothschild, okay? One of the occasions was to ask Parliament to assist in the settling of 100,000 plus Jewish settlers into the British-owned Palestine. This makes sense. The Rothschilds, after all, were the leader of the Zio movement in the early 20th century. The other speech that Lord Rothschild gave, milk pasteurization. So you might say, why would he give a speech on milk pasteurization? Well, the only conclusion we could have is that it's not good for humans to have pasteurized milk. That's the only conclusion. When we know the history of the Rothschilds, we know he only spoke twice at Parliament, twice right? And they make, they don't sell raw milk at the grocery store. It's got to be pasteurized milk. You can't go to the grocery and get raw. It's not an option for you. Now, if you go to a farm, an organic farm, yeah, it could be an option. But that's because pasteurized milk is harmful to humans and causes cardiovascular damage and destroys nutrients and proteins within the milk. Now, of course, in today's world, we're told over and over how bad milk is in general. Most people don't even drink pasteurized milk anymore unless they're having cereal. But it's very important to note Lord Rothschild's involvement. And then when they're talking about the bird flu, how you shouldn't give your cats, you don't need to have, they're continuing to push this raw milk theory that, hey, raw milk, you can get the bird flu from it. Don't let your cats have it. Don't you dare have it, right? Make sure it's pasteurized. So it's just, when we talk about this stuff with the bird flu, this is like, when we, think about how insane things are, right? Think about how gullible people are. People are fearful of getting a flu that is named after a bird, right? Now, birds are pretty tiny. So a flu that would affect a bird when we're, humans, right? What does a bird weigh? Not even a pound. An ounce, right? So it's a bird flu, right? It's something that you shouldn't be fearful. Did anyone even know that birds could really, come on. The whole thing is just utterly insane. Anyone who believes it, they believe in the tooth fairy still, clearly. But the fact that we're at a point where they're using this and you're not questioning it yet, and you don't know where this is going with the food supply and getting this inside the birds and the cows and everything else that we eat and the eggs, right? With the CRISPR. If you didn't see the video I did, watch it about, how this is going to transmit. They're going to get this in all the animals. Everyone's looking at this going, this is disease X. They're going to try to push this on humans. Are there humans who are so stupid that they would actually get it? The answer is yes, of course. Most of those people vote blue because they do whatever the government tells them. So if they tell them that it makes sense to get something in your body that you don't know what it is, but it'll prevent you from getting a runny nose that a bird would apparently get, they would go and do it, right? But this is about getting it in the food supply. So they're telling you this, and they're talking about getting rid of chickens, getting rid of eggs, and then growing these things that are gene editing for you. And that's the future, right? Because remember, this thing can mutate. It's very, very frightening to see where we're headed, not with what they're trying to do. It's frightening to see what people actually believe and just how dumbed down they are. These people must be meeting and laughing. I can't imagine the laughter that they're having. If they hate humans so much, which they do, we know that for a fact. Just imagine Billy Gates and these people in a room with locked doors, and then they're probably writing some of this stuff, and they're like, oh, what could we get them to believe? That's got to be the mindset that they have. And like, let's pick the bird flu. Like, these people are that dumb that we'll convince them that they can get a bird flu, and then we'll kill off their food supply, or we'll make them have to get the CRISPR in their chickens so that they can get this in their body. But if they can actually we can make them fearful of the bird flu. Yeah, they'll believe it. And they do. They do. There's nobody out there, other than people like us, because we look at all this stuff, we know what it is. So we can laugh at it, shake our heads and go, this is unbelievable. But the fact that there's people out there that believe this, are fearful of it, and then they say, oh man, you're just a conspiracy theorist. And you just go, since when do viruses mutate like this? You know what I mean? It's like, what? They just, and this could turn into that. And all of a sudden, a flu for the bird is getting into adult humans. They're getting into cows. It's getting into everything. And nobody's like, yeah, that's a little weird. Oh, well, they explained it to me on CBS Good Morning why it's happening. So you're wrong. They explained it to me very clearly. What they explained to you is that they want to gene edit you. And what they're telling you in that clip that I showed you is that, well, in order to protect the eggs, these chickens are going to need to get CRISPR, or call it what it is, mRNA shots. Then we won't have to kill them. And then you can eat the eggs. And thus it would be the equivalent, in a sense, of us getting something inside of your body because you refused in the first place to go and sign up for it. So, really, when we look at this stuff, are you surprised? I'm sure some of you are like, oh, I'm not really surprised. We're around these people who believe whatever they're told. And honestly, I feel like they sit there and they talk about this stuff and they say, what would be the most insane thing we could say to make them believe? Like, they're not sitting there going, well, we got to really think this through to make sure they get it. I think they're sitting there and they're going, let's think of the most insane thing because these idiots are actually going to believe it. And then we'll silence anybody who speaks against it. We'll put propaganda out there about how they're all tin foil hat wearers. And we'll actually get these idiots to defend us. The same people telling them that they need to get certain things in their chickens or themselves so that they don't get the cough from a bird. I mean, it's really unreal. Anyway, folks, I wanted to cover that. I thank everybody for being here. If you're new here, just make sure you subscribe if you haven't yet. I appreciate all of you greatly. God bless you as always and your families.